Hey everybody, and today it's time to harvest the garlic. So the garlic is about a week early, really kind of a mild winter thing. It's about as early as I've ever had to harvest this garlic, and we probably was ready a couple of days ago, but I've been really holding out. And as long as the weather's dry, you can think of them as kind of curing in the ground, but we're gonna have a thunderstorm coming and I wanna get these out because that's gonna substantially delay the time that I can really harvest and cure these again. So I've dug one up. Look at that. It's a beauty. I'm going to show you how I get ready to cure my garlic because I grow enough to cure. If you don't cure it, obviously you don't need to follow these steps, but we're going to cut the roots off the bottom. Okay. And we're going to drop that down. We're going to cut this right at about, if you can see here, right about where the white ends and meets the yellow. That's about where we're going to cut that. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel this outer one or two layers off. If it ends up really clean, I'm going to stop right there, and I think it is. That means that this is just a really good layer of skin to protect the garlic. I'm going to show you that. Look at that. Now we're going to cure that in the shed. We're going to leave it in there for at least 2 weeks, but we'll know when it's ready. But you can see how nice and swollen it is, how tight the skin is. And if we look at this one here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leaves. This is a little weird leaf. That's not really normal, but it's about 7 leaves. This one has a little more, but if you look around, a lot of these only have 6, so I kind of averaged it out between the two, and they're ready to go. Be back when this harvest is over. So I planted this garlic on September 29th last year. It takes about 9 months to get a good garlic harvest, but otherwise it's a very easy plant. I really encourage everyone to grow it. You just have to set up the bed in the fall and plant it. I put down a thick layer of chopped leaf mulch, and other than that, you really don't have to do anything. I do feed it twice in the spring, but you could get away without that. And I didn't even water these a single time in the entire season, and it's fairly typical because once the scapes appear, you don't want to water the garlic anymore. You kind of want to dry them out, and you want to harvest on a day when you're going to get a nice, when it's been hot and dry for a little while. And that's why I saw a storm coming up. I wanted to get this done. When you're harvesting, your garlic shouldn't smell. I mean, it should smell like garlic, but it shouldn't have like a rancid or any kind of off smell. If it does, it's a sign you may have a pest or a fungal problem. It doesn't mean all is lost, but it may mean that that garlic's not going to store or store well. You may want to put it right in the fridge or use it right away. So there we go. We got 1 box of garlic down. Looks beautiful. I'm just going to make a couple of pointers here. First of all, I haven't watered these at all this season, and you can see the dirt is kind of dry, and that makes it come out a lot easier. If it's wet, they'll come up clumped, and also the outer leaves will degrade, the layers of skin will degrade a lot faster. So that's why I want to really get it out before the wind. A couple more things. If you see here, these are planted pretty deep. People don't suggest that you plant these this deep, but I'm trying to avoid the onion maggot. And if you see here, that little tiny hole, that might be the first evidence of onion maggots starting to hit these. And the idea of planting them deeper was hopefully it was going to get less damage. And so far it looks good. We'll find out more from the other box. Last point is when you're harvesting, this is the proper pitchfork, but you can see mine is broken, and I tried to get away with a compost fork. I don't know if it came out on the time lapse, but it did not do well. It is just totally not the right device for the job. I'm going to see if we can get this guy going again for that other box. You want to kind of get it under the garlic and pop the garlic up, and that's the quickest way. But you can do them by hand and expose them, but grab them by the bulb. Do not yank them out by the neck. That will damage your garlic. Okay, great. Let's get to that other box. So obviously if you only grow a few heads, you don't really need to cure them. You know, if you have a dozen or so, you could even just put them on your counter in the kitchen and they'll slowly cure in the kitchen. I've had no problems doing stuff like that. Or you could put them in the fridge if they're somehow compromised.
Obviously, I grow enough, so I'm going to take extra care to cure them. I'm going to put them in my shed. I actually have enough garlic to last me all year. I haven't bought garlic in the store for like 8 to 10 years. So this garlic will last all season until we start to at least get to the scapes. And so you put them in the shed for 2 weeks to keep them out of direct sunlight all day, though if they do get some sunlight during the day, that's not a problem. And if you want to keep them outside, put them in a well-ventilated, shady place, and don't let them get wet. Now, as a comment here on that, what I thought was an onion maggot damage on reflection and really looking at them, it looks to me more like it's a wireworm, which is just a type of beetle larvae, and they dig little holes in all kinds of roots and below the ground vegetables. I don't see the remainder of the signs of having onion maggots like damage to the leaves or a rancid smell. So in the end, we'll know later, but I think that planting them deeper and possibly harvesting them early this year for another week really helped with the problem, because looking at them in the shed, they look great. Here, just as a couple final things, after these are gone, I'm going in my rotation, I'm going to plant beans. I'm going to plant some dried beans, some soup beans, and some string beans. And then I'm going to save some of these garlic cloves to plant next year, or actually this year in the fall. And what I would tell you, a lot of people say plant the biggest cloves. I have found that that is not a good idea. Actually, you want to plant like medium bulbs or medium large bulbs. If you plant the largest bulbs, they're going to split and you get two smaller heads in this place of one large. Was the last tip, if you do find that you have onion maggots, especially if you can see the maggots themselves in your garlic, what I do is I put them someplace pretty hot for a day or two, like in my greenhouse, and that really seems to kill the onion maggots or drive them away.
Okay, a couple final notes. We got them all picked. This one I wanted to show you, just to show you what happens. This is if you yank on it. This guy got yanked on a little, and you see, that's what happens to the skin. So you really want to excavate them carefully. These two are kind of what happens when a garlic's in the ground a little too long. In my earlier video, I said you want to take them earlier rather than later. This is one of the reasons. If they're in a little too long, you're trying to get them bigger, you're trying to get them bitter, and look what happens. They start to split and open up, and these won't store well. So if you're not storing them, this is fine. But for keepers, this one's probably okay, but this one's already been compromised. Another thing I just wanted to point out is, why are we clipping off the tops? And most gardeners will not clip off the tops. I clip off the tops. I found from curing them, the single greatest impediment to these drying out in a reasonable period of time is those tops and that outer layer of skin. So if you peel off those outer layer skins, it gets nice and clean. You can peel them off later, but it's a lot more problematic. It's much quicker to peel them now, and they will help it dry out faster without the leaves in the top. Now, I just want to show you one more thing, and that's this. This is a garlic flower, and it's very interesting, and if you look at it, it has tiny little flowers, but it also has these bulbules here, and these are little mini cloves of garlic, and that's what that is. And this plant is so amazing in that it does that. Here, catch this one. So I'm about to harvest my music. It's about 10 days after the last video, and I'll just show you one more thing. Show you how the garlic is drying after all that time, about 10 days in the shed. It's really coming along. It's developing some beautiful color. The cloves inside will be wrapped in deep purple. It's tight, feels good, it's coming along great. Good luck.